All right, you're Mr. Baseball. Tell everybody who you are, man.
I'm Elijah Ovadia, Mets expert.
Yes, but I call you Mr. Baseball because we're going to go a little further.
Okay.
Okay, going into the ninth inning, how were you feeling?
Going into the game three, I'm assuming you're saying going into the ninth, I had the game off after the two home runs. I thought we were done.
Oh, you like me? Okay.
I can't do it because apparently I'm a curse. I can't watch the game sometimes. I turn on the game, we just get killed, and then I turn it off, and then I come back, we take the lead.
I want to tell you something. 2016, when the Cubs won the World Series, I did the same thing. I did the same thing, and I'm gonna tell you something. With that win, we'll get to the game. This is kind of reminded me of 2016, where the Cubs refused to lose and they never had any good history. But I had a different feeling that year when they came back against the Giants. They came back against the Dodgers. They came back from 3-1 against the Indians and won the last two games in their place and won the World Series. It was a different, that group just refused to lose. And I'm wondering if I'm seeing the same thing with the Mets.
I really hope so. I mean, if you saw the after game interview with Nimmo said, I think it was after game one, these guys are different.
Yeah.
These guys are they're different than that 22 team that won 101 games. They're,
Yes.
they got these guys don't quit. They don't quit.
No, they don't. And the unsung hero of the game was Lindor because he put so much fear in the pitchers that they nibbled, walked him. Nimbo hits it. Nimmo hits the single. But with Alonso, he kept throwing changeups. So Alonso started to see the changeup. He never adjusted. He threw one changeup too many, and he got him, and he crushed it.
And if you saw in the swing, oh, that's not a home run swing. That's a let's go hit the gap swing. Let's tie this game up.
Yep.
That's not like his home run swing. His home run swing, he would have swung and missed on it. But he came up, he brought it back to a 3-2 count in that at bat. And he had to redeem himself after that drop ball and just for the
Oh, man.
one
Yeah.
hit period before that. But he did have in game one, he walked a ton. He walked it. They didn't want to pitch to him game one, but game two was just rough for him.
I'm so pumped for you, man. They got the win. Um, You know what? You notice every postseason is that home run that just cripples the other team. It's always been that way.
Well, I think this year, I mean, yeah,
Mhm.
obviously that's the one you think of, but I think when you think of just crippling the other team, I think you think Jackson Chourio from this year. That guy has been a Mets killer the whole season. The whole season's killed us.
Yeah,
He's, he didn't start off too great the start of the season, and then he started against us, he was great, and then eventually he picked up the pace. You know, he's going to be something. I mean, that extension right now looks pretty worth it.
it's
Uh,
definitely worth it. When we're talking about Met history and homers, Lenny Dykstra, game three against Boston, Ray Knight, game seven against Boston. It's always that big home run that always helps. If you go back to 69, Don Clendenon's home runs upset a great Oriole team. So that's just been the Met history, how home runs on the bad side, it was a social home run for the Dodgers when they beat the Mets. It's always a home run that is the key. You're going to play the Philadelphia Phillies. I love this. Dodgers, Padres, Phillies, Mets, they despise each other. But it's more the Phillies in because their fans despise any New York team because of the inferior complex they do have. Have you been to Philadelphia?
I have been to Philadelphia. I went back in April to Lincoln Financial. So
Mm-hmm.
I've
Mm,
bank. I haven't been to Citizens Bank. I've seen it looks pretty clean. I mean, the streets aren't, but yeah,
yeah.
it looks like the CAA is pretty.
Those fans are crazy. I covered the Sixer Atlanta Hawk game. I'm behind the Hawks bench next to the Philly Fanatic. The fans said things. I was like, wow, they are the crudest, roughest fans. And the Philadelphia media is very cocky. They're constantly dismissing. I listen to WIP. They're constantly dismissing the Mets. If I'm a Phillies fan, I'm nervous. The way you guys are playing, and realistically, being cocky is stupid. But realistically, I'm like, man, we're gonna be in for a dogfight. I think it's gonna be a dogfight this series.
I think they shouldn't be cocky as well. You're not the one seed. You're not the one seed. You
No,
choke playoffs against the red hot Diamondbacks last year. You should not be cocky. You haven't won a World Series in a while. I mean, Mets haven't won one longer, but your drought should have ended 2 years ago. If
Yeah.
we're
Yeah, but one more thing about that. When they took the lead against Arizona, they started to act overconfident at game 5 in Arizona, and they never adjusted. Arizona took off after. You're so correct.
and I think a big part in this lineup for them is if their bats go silent. They went silent last year. At some point, they got too cocky. They got too cocky. They went silent, and I think they're weaker this year, at least lineup wise. I mean, the starting pitching is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, but then again, not against the Mets. Mets are 12-3 against Nola and Wheeler this year.
Really? Wow.
Actually, 2022 since 2022.
Wow. Okay. I'm glad you put that out there.
Hmm?
And Nolan Wheeler was where it's going to be important. But another thing, can they close the Mets out? The Mets are very tough. And inning 7, 8, 9, those last 9 outs are very difficult as far as getting the Mets out.
I think a big thing is with the Phillies bullpen. You never know. You never know. Regular season, okay, it's pretty locked down. In the postseason, no. It's just a bunch of guys who basically are just reskins of Hector Neris. They're gonna blow it. Matt Strom, great season. He's gonna blow it. Who's the other guy? I think if they throw, is the Soto on the roster, the lefty that they got from Detroit? I can't think of his first name.
Okay.
But he's a hard throwing lefty. He's gonna blow it if they put him in. If he's even on the roster, I don't even know if he's there. I think.
Okay. There's one problem. You got to get Trey Turner, who's a pain in the neck in the postseason, and Bryce Harper. You got to get those outs and get the 7, 8, 9 hitters out. You want to make sure that those guys, there's no one on base when they're up.
Harper Turner. That's a dangerous duo.
Yeah.
If you can catch I believe Harper's slumped. This was a down year for Harper. I believe. This was a down year for him. Trey Turner, I mean, he's always red hot. You can't get that guy out.
He's a pain in the neck on the base paths too.
Oh, that's true. But here's where their big thing is. Stott, who was a big role the last 2 years, especially in the playoffs, he has had a down year this year. He has been abysmal, or compared to what he was last year. He's not the same player. It's just, I mean, speaking of not the same team, though, the Orioles in the playoffs.
Oh, hey.
I had them going all the way the last 2 years. I had that at the start of the season.
Yeah, me too. I'm that's not good. Let's go to the Dodgers and Padres. I have Mr. Baseball of LA coming on. Noel Sanchez. He's your age. He's the hot shot guy. Covers the Dodgers. He's the new hot shot baseball guy, just like you. He's going to bring a Dodger perspective when I put him on after you. Who's going to win that series?
Padres, 100%. Dodgers have no pitching. Flaherty is not a postseason pitcher.
I
have Glass now, I don't think. I think he's still out. Kershaw's out. I mean, not that you want him in the playoffs anyway, but who are you going to throw out there? Bueller, who's been abysmal this year. You have no starting pitching. Your lineup went dead last year. Your big money guys, Mookie, Freddie, Will Smith, they couldn't hit the ball. They went like 2 hits combined in the DS last year.
So now he was great in 2020, but I want to see how Mookie and those guys do. I need the Dodgers. I agree with you. I'm picking the Padres and the Mets to play each other, but I hope I'm wrong. I need the Dodgers to win for selfish reasons. So I'm be rooting for them to get out of this round. But I mean, I can't as an analyst. I got to go with the Padres because it's bad pitching. But it's a tough matchup. That's a tough series. Now, with you guys, you do not want to go to Game 7. You want to get the Phillies out in 5 or 6.
Well, it's only a 5-game series.
I mean, I'm sorry. You want to get them out in 4.
Which, that's the tricky part. Because Game 1, you have Kodai Senga. He has not pitched all year. I'm terrified. But if he can show what he did last year, I think that we're going to be in for – I think he's going to let up a couple, but I don't think it's going to be that much damage. I think he's going to have about maybe a little better than a Sevy start than he did that wild card game. I think he's going to be a little bit better than Sevy. Get rocked a little bit at the start, but then find himself. I mean, that ghost fork is nasty. You just can't touch it.
Oh no.
It's when he gets it right, unless he's hanging it, which he doesn't often, you're not touching it. He did really good against the Phillies last year. I'd really like to see him, put us up game one, because game one, you need to win a game in Philly. You can't
Yes.
get swept. That is the big thing. You cannot get swept in Philly. If you can beat them, if you can beat
All the pressure in the world if you win that one game, and they got to win 2 games in Citi Field. Citi Field's going to rock.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm really hoping to go to one of those games. I haven't seen them in my lifetime.
Uh-huh.
Um, it would be incredible to go and incredible to boo Bryce Harper as Phillies out of that building. I'd love nothing more than to see the Mets upset the Phillies.
You know where the hatred of the Mets and Phillies really started?
Chase
Was the Rollins Howard trash talking Phillies, where they won one title, but they should have won about 4 or 5, and they ended up choking a lot, and they were still talking like they had 4 or 5 championships, and they ran their mouths about the Mets, and that's where the hatred comes from, and it might be time for payback for you.
But payback, it's long overdue, especially Utley ruined our 2015. It was 2015 when he took out Ruben Tejada. I hate chasing that. I don't like the Dodgers for that. I don't right now. I'm not liking. I can't stand the Brewers after that series. They killed us all year, but thankfully we got out of it. And then I like Philly. I can appreciate that some of their players, but thankfully Hoskins is off that team, but I still can't appreciate some of their guys. I think they're completely overrated. They're just, since there's like a couple good players who are big money, I think like the rest, you're paying a ton of money to Castellanos and Schwarber to do what? Nothing.
I'm glad we didn't pay him. He was on the Cubs and we let him go.
Oh, well, he had those good couple seasons, but you don't want to play him in the field. I don't know what. I don't even know who their manager is anymore because they fired Joe Girardi. I personally don't care, but whoever it is, you're stupid. They're stupid. His decisions sometimes, it's like you don't pull them. Their lineups are. I think leading off with Schwarber is sometimes a good idea, but you're doing it too much. Schwarber's not. He can't run. He can't run. He had that injury in 2015.
Yeah.
Actually,
I'll tell you, he is pretty good in the postseason. And I think Harper is dangerous in the postseason. Be careful about Harper. The other guys, they come and go, but those, you got to watch out for guys with a history of good postseason play.
I mean, I don't know about Castellanos, but I believe he was good in the postseason the last couple of years. He's dangerous whenever something happens, more like on a 9/11 day, Castellanos is hitting a home run. Have you seen that?
Yeah. But on the other side, Lindor really is coming on. He's dangerous. You gotta have that contact hitter to set up your big bopper with Alonso and Marte. You're pretty dangerous in that lineup, and there's a belief. You believe.
Now,
you believe you could beat the Phillies, and that's half the battle.
I want to tell you what I saw in this wild card team. This lineups and Mendoza, just the faith in Mendoza, at least creating this lineup, gave me a lot of faith. I mean, Lindor, he wasn't the greatest. He's had his better moments, but he's still struggling with that back injury. Marte showed me a lot of promise. I mean, he had some tough lineouts. It's just like, what are you gonna do? But he was hitting the ball hard. Alonso was walking, not really.
Yep.
Was walking a ton. Iglesias putting in 110%, sliding into that base, saved us that series. And then them not covering the bag. I mean, it's just the Mets capitalizing on little mistakes like that against the aggressive Brewers who were taking extra base after extra base after extra base. And then what was it? When Alvarez threw out? He threw out someone a second. It was a close call, called safe at first, got called him out.
Mm-hmm.
They just countered them. Like they countered them, they hit them harder, and they just they saw the little cracks and they just pounded their weaknesses. I mean, especially with Mendoza moving this lineup around, where you can't get used to it. You had Lindor and then Iglesias, and then Iglesias got moved down, and Nimmo got moved to third in the order. Then Vientos got moved to second. Just the switching around of the order is just incredible, and I think it's very smart.
Okay, I want to talk about your dad's team in American League. The Yankees and Royals was the greatest. When I was a kid, me and your dad were young. That was the best rivalry with George Brett going against Reggie Jack. It was a, you know how the Mets and Yankees hate each other? That's how the Royals and Yankees hate each other. I think the Royals fans still don't like the Yankees. And I believe Yankees are gonna win, but that's a fun series because it brings me back to the old school.
Now, okay, I'll tell you what. Since the Orioles and the Yankees have been splitting all year, I mean, the Orioles have been, they've been pretty much owning the Yankees, but the Yankees have been owning the Royals for
Yeah.
years on end. The Yankees have always been the big brother in that scenario. But this team, again, with the Mets, this team's kind of different. You got Bobby Witt leading the charge. Great outings from Reagan.
Bobby Witt is so good. Yes. And they're on a run. I'm curious to see. And Cole, to me, is a number 2. He's a great pitcher, but I don't think he's a number 1.
He's
like
not
when they had with Sabathia and Cohen and all them. I believe he's a number 2, but that's the Yankees number 1. So maybe I'm wrong, but when I see that he's good and he's okay in the postseason.
I don't know where you would start Cole if I'm being I don't know, or who you're starting game 1. I guess you would start Cole.
Yeah.
But who do you go after that? I mean, your rotation's been a little rocky. Gil had a second half. Nestor was not himself. Stroman, you don't want to pitch Stroman in the playoffs. I don't think that's a good idea. I think that was the awful contract. Rondon, okay, I'll give you that one. He's pretty solid. But how is he going to pitch in the playoffs? You don't know. Here's what your issue is. Judge is going to he's going to slow down completely and go over in the playoffs
we'll see. The guys do. He might have an A-Rod moment where A-Rod was horrible in the postseason, then he just caught fire in 2009. Maybe he doesn't. Soto's a great postseason player.
Soto's a great playoff player, and I think Soto's going to fuel this lineup. I don't know about Judge, though. Judge should have, every year they've made it. Judge, he's been the backbone of this lineup. He's been the face of this franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Down against, but then they're not.
We'll see. We'll see.
Is a big upset. Houston being out, I was thrilled.
Hold on, man. Now the Mets advance and the Yankees don't advance. How are you going to deal with? What are you going to say to your dad? Because he's going to be like, "Oh my gosh, Elijah's going to be unbearable." What are you going to get? Well, are you going to get on him? What's going to happen here?
I may tease him a little bit, but at this job's not. We got to win this whole thing.
I know.
Here where the Mets got to win, it's this year. This is the year. This is the year. I mean, there's just some teams, I mean, you can build an 101-win team and just shatter in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Real's whole farm team, they're a whole farm team, and they shattered. In the last 2 years and in their prior experiences with their old team, they just shatter in the playoffs. They suck.
Listen, I could tell you from 2016, there's nothing like watching your team. I took the day off to watch them celebrate. There's nothing like watching your team in a parade when you've finally done it. There's nothing like that. I can tell you from that experience. Finally, the Tigers are on fire, man. And Cleveland was just sitting there, and the Tigers they're thinking they can go to the World Series.
They're not going to the World Series.
They're not going.
This is either going to end the spark. They're going to either end it against Cleveland, but then again, they're they know each other well. I could see Detroit maybe winning, but it would be in 5. If they sweep, then I lose all my credentials at that rate.
I can't have that. You're Mr. Baseball on my show. But do you know that the Yankees have never beaten the Tigers in the postseason?
Really?
Yeah.
Well, if they do, they're gonna beat this Tigers team.
They're gonna break that. Yeah.
They're gonna. Okay. I mean, maybe not against Tarek Skubal. I mean, you're not that guy. And then their bullpen was solid. Their bullpen was very, very solid. They, in tight situations, they stuck around. They had a lot of runs. It's the lineup where I'm worried, and the back end of that rotation. I'm worried there because look, lineup. You got Riley Green. You got a couple of guys, but you don't have that 3-4 hitter. You don't got your lead up. You don't have that structure in the lineup where there's any dangerous hitters. I mean, it's the postseason, so anyone could come alive, but I don't see it. And then you don't have anyone after Skubal. You would have had Flaherty after him, but
their bullpen. That's what they do. They have bullpen starts. They have the starter. They have their bullpen start. And it's like bullpen games other than their ace. And they're thinking that that's going to get them to the World Series.
I would absolutely. I mean, I don't think they're going to do it because Cleveland,
Mm-hmm.
they're the pitching team, and
Mm-hmm.
they have that solidified, you know, like lineup in the postseason. You have J Ram, the most underrated player in all of MLB,
Yep.
possibly three. He should be a Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. If he's just on a consistent pace. And then you have Andres Jimenez. He's got some postseason experience. Josh Naylor in the playoffs. Let me tell you about that guy. He is the Yankees' daddy. You know,
So you're thinking Yankees in Cleveland. What if it's the Yankees and the Mets? What I will do, I'll come to your house and me and your mom will sit in between you and your dad so there's no problem. And, I'll eat all your dad's food, and then the game will come on. It'll be the Mets and Yankees, and I'll sit between you guys. He'll have his Yankee stuff, and you have your Mets. We'll make sure we can get along with that.
well, I'm saying that's not going to happen because I Subway Series. I will be attending.
You'll
I
be attending. Listen, if you're attending, I'm gonna let you be the man on the streets. I did that in 2001. The Subway Series. I went to Yankee Stadium for Game 1 and interviewed people going in. I didn't have a ticket, but I interviewed people going in. I saw George Steinbrenner film that. I turned that into a sports show by doing that. And they were going, "Let's go!" Yeah, I never felt the atmosphere that cool. So that would be something I would send you to do.
that would be incredible. I'd love that opportunity. I mean, I'd love to see any New York team make the World Series. I haven't seen that happen since I became a baseball fan. That's something I really hope to see. Even if it's the Yankees, if they're facing Philly, I got a Yankees.
Well, this is what I want: either the Yankees Mets or Yankees Dodgers, just from a rating standpoint in my show. But I'm not going to hold my breath. But I hope.
No, I don't want to see the Dodgers anywhere near that World Series.
Well, listen.
Ohtani,
My other guy from the West Coast is probably saying I don't want to see the Mets. So you guys, he's you from the West Coast. He's going to be next on my show. But listen, you did a fantastic job. You got me fired up for tomorrow, man.
let's go Mets, baby.
I'll be texting you.
I have homecoming tomorrow. I'm not going to be watching the game.
Oh, I'll send you updates.
All right, all right.
All right.